Hey, this is Whitney Elkins Hutton from PassiveInvesting.com. If you want to learn how to use your small axe to build an empire, you should be listening to the Small Axe podcast with my good friend Nico.
Hey guys, it's your boy Nico here from the Small Axe Podcast. I want to show you how to use your small axe to build a lasting empire. You see, not everybody begins their investing career with millions of dollars, a huge network of investors, or the knowledge necessary to become successful in this space, and that's okay. What I focus on here on this podcast is helping you hone your skills, sharpen your tools to become the best investor that you can be. Now, I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy this show. If you have any questions or you want to reach out to me or the guest, feel free to do so. Love you guys. Okay, Small Axe community, it's me, Nico, and today I'm hanging out with Whitney Elkins Hutton. She's a really inspiring operator / passive investor, educator, and I'm going to get to, share her story. I'm going to have her share her story with you and her journey, and then she's going to give us some really actionable advice today on some things that you can take away for you and your own journey and what you're working on. So without further ado, Whitney, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nico. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. And why don't you take a couple of minutes just to kind of give a little bit of background about yourself and your journey and what you're working on?
Absolutely. Well, my name is Whitney Elkins Hutton. I'm the Director of Passive Investor Education here at PassiveInvesting.com. I didn't start off in real estate. That was not what I went to school for. I actually started off in with a master's and then eventually a PhD in community health and nutrition. I spent many years in the public health arena. And but along the way, I bought a house with a significant other, and about a month after I bought my first house in 2002, the relationship fell apart, and I had a house. The mortgage was under my name, the bill, all the bills, everything was under my name, and I panicked a little bit. And so I stuffed it full of roommates to help me pay the bills, and thought the best thing I could possibly do is complete the rehab on this house and get it sold and just walk away from it. Well, about 11 months later, I completed the rehab after I paid a lot of my roommates and sushi, beer, pizza. We got everything put back together. It was beautiful. It's probably my number one investing mistake, selling this house, because I might have walked away with $52,000, but that's when I realized that I could actually produce income that wasn't tied to how many hours I spent in my job. And my eyes were just wide open. Not only that, I had been house hacking. That's what it's called today. And my roommates have been paying all my bills for me, including the utilities. And after I sold this property, I'm like, oh man, how many more of these deals can I possibly do? And did several more live flips and house hacks on my own, and then eventually was joined by my husband, and we did a few more projects together. And then we realized we were doing really good at building up buckets of equity, but we didn't have our freedom back, our time freedom, or nor were we financially free. Like, we didn't have steady income coming in. And that's where we kind of slapped ourselves in the middle of the head going, oh my gosh, we need to put renters into these properties. And so I dove down that rabbit hole, scaled a portfolio of over 30 single family homes, and then hit the next level of achievement, which is how can I go bigger into multifamily real estate and leverage, just the scalability of having more units under management. And but we didn't know if we wanted to do that actively or passively. So for me, if I didn't know which one I wanted to do, hey, do both. Why not? Because I I didn't have the time to begin with, but now I certainly don't have the time. Anyways, I say that jokingly, but went into as an operator on 10 multifamily deals actively. And then what I realized was I needed to start taking these chips off the table as quickly as possible and putting them into passive investments in case one day I didn't want to be that active syndicator, for the rest of my life. And so we continued to scale both sides of the portfolio, actively and passively. And today we have over 6,500 units under our belts in partnership. And that's residential units. We have 2,200 self-storage units. We have some express car washes. And I had the wonderful opportunity here teaching other investors how to do the exact same thing at PassiveInvesting.com. And we have 1.4 billion assets under management here. 3,300 multifamily units and 6,600 self-storage units. And then as of today, 22 car washes, soon to be 30.
Oh my goodness, Whitney, this is such a journey. What an incredible story and journey. And as you're speaking throughout the beginning part of it, I just was thinking of how much courage you have to continue on, to press on, and to build such a significant business and portfolio. It is quite impressive, quite inspiring. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Um, wow. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about that transition from those 30 single family units into your first multifamily. Was it very different or was it okay?
It was incredibly different. Just to back up the story a little bit, we had these 30 single family units under management. And they were with property management, but I was managing the property manager. We were still doing about 10 flips a year just to recapitalize ourselves. And, we had a baby girl at home, and I was taking care of some ailing family members. And I went to my husband, I'm like, hey, we've got this cash flow coming in. And the whole reason for us to have this passive cash flow, so I could actually spend more time with family, not less, right? How about we can I take a little bit of a step back here and from my day job and really kind of step into this real estate arena and figure out, where we want to take it. And I thought we were going to be scaling more single family. I had no idea at that point in time we were going to do multifamily. And he goes, that's fantastic. Yes, you can retire, quote unquote, retire, right? But I was going to be doing something else. And he goes, but I want that too. And that's when I was just like the deer in the headlights. At first I was like, yes, he's come to the dark side. He loves real estate. And at the same time, I'm like, wait a second, we have to get to 80 single family homes for this to work, for you to step away from your day job. And I'm like, no way, absolutely no way. We have to figure out how to get more units with each transaction. And, we walked away from that meeting going, okay, this is the future we're building together. Then I'm like, who can help me do this? Because I knew I couldn't do it all on my own, right? By this time, I finally learned real estate is a relationship business. And I'm like, I need a new realtor, I need a new lender, I need a new property manager. Like the whole team that I had put together for residential real estate, largely I needed a whole new everything. Now, a lot of my skills were translatable, but I needed a whole new underwriting model. So I had to level up myself and my team. And that was kind of where I was like, do I do it all on my own? Being the driven person I am, like, do I get a gold star if I try to do this all on my own? And that's when I'm like, you know what? This is why people partner with each other. It's to leverage each other's strength. And that was, it's not as hard as one would think that it is. I would vet a partner more stringently than almost as stringently as you would vet a spouse in a way, a life partner. And that was like a huge, scary step. But yeah, how I made that transition was I tried to do it all myself, but eventually I came to the realization that I needed partners. If I was going to do this effectively and efficiently, I needed to find the best partners I could to go into business with.
Yeah, great answer. And I went through the journey myself. It's actually a pretty similar story, which my audience knows. But okay, now you're scaling up into larger multifamily, and you've decided, just like I had to decide, that I need to relinquish some of this power and control. And it was scary for me at first. And so now you're working with other people. You're putting trust in other people and other teams. Was it easy to scale? Quick, like did it happen quickly? Were there challenges involved?
Oh, I mean, yes and no. I mean, for starters, I feel like in our team of three, there was two major partners. I was the minority partner in the relationship. Everybody was in. We landed on very quickly who was going to own what role, and had people stepping into their zone of genius. And the benefit that I brought to the relationship was operations and investor relations. So I had come from a sales operation background previously at a tech company right before joining this partnership. And so was not the one doing the marketing. I just got to talk to people, and then I got to handle the internal, the operations and putting together all those processes and procedures, and trying to find the most effective way to scale the business as quickly as possible. When you get everybody into the right seat, right seat on the bus, now people can step into their zone of genius, but you still have to do the hard work. Because it's not like you just turn on your website and then all of a sudden people come. I mean, I think that's like a fallacy that people think, oh, if I get my website going and get my business cards printed and show up at a couple conferences, I'm going to have all these investors knocking down my door. No, that is not what happens. It's still, again, a relationship business. And, even when you start meeting your first handful of investors beyond family and friends, that you're probably going to be nurturing that relationship for 4, 5, 6 months at least before getting, maybe even your first investment from them, if not repeat investments with them. So, but once you get that flywheel going, then it's about maintaining that trust and credibility that they've bestowed on you and building upon that. And so that's where we start really seeing with these companies hockey stick growth. The first few months, it's like scaling up any small business. You have to be dedicated to putting in the time and just putting in the time and the hard work and the elbow grease in order to get it off the ground.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, this is incredible. When do you still focus on operations as well as investor relations, or are you more leaning towards the investor relations part?
I am. It's really interesting. When COVID happened, my daughter came home. She was schooling from home, and I know, everybody had their ups and downs with COVID, but for us, that really shined a light on what we wanted in our life. My husband and I, and we're like, the time I joked around, she's 7, 8. Now she's 10, almost she's 11 tomorrow, depending on when you guys are listening to this. And I'm like, she probably is going to like me for like 2 or 3 more years. Now I'm like, the clock's ticking. She might like me. Like I'm still mommy, right? And I was like, for me, the whole point of me getting into real estate was to be able to provide for my family. And that way I could have this freedom of, but not only financial freedom, but freedom of time, freedom of choice. And so for me, it's stepping into this freedom and really utilizing, for me, passive investments to get there. Now, I still work very strongly on the active side of the investment, but I take that chip off the table as quickly as I possibly can to get it into the I quadrant. Like if anybody here's read Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, right? Like, got a couple fist pumps here. That is what I'm trying to do. So you asked me where I'm at today. I still have a lot of my own active investments that I have been in, general partnership in, that I'm continuing to run and operate. But I've designed my life where I largely work on the passive side with the investor, not so much completely in the investor relations role that is a sales role in closing capital, but really in this awesome niche to where I can freely talk to investors, coach investors in order, to help them figure out like what are their goals, what is their risk tolerance, what is their timeline, and arm them with the skills so they can go into the investment that actually best meets their needs.
Awesome, Whitney. So how does that look? Like, let's say you're staring down, like, okay, it's Monday morning. You got a list of potential investors, right? That they, somebody says, maybe you have to reach out to them or have conversations with them, or your calendar's booked. What are those first few conversations like?
Well, I mean, I just came off of a conference, InvestorCon in Scottsdale, Arizona last week. And so I have that list of investors. That's exactly what I've been doing majority of the day. For me, I'm reaching out to those investors and helping them understand, primarily probably what they resonated with me with is, the raising capital function or the investor relations function of our business here at PassiveInvesting.com. So I'm reaching out to them to educate them on who we are a little bit as a company, but also, helping them, just, kind of match step lead, like meeting them where they're at and offering my time, knowledge, and expertise. And they get to engage with me on either like scheduling a call with me, or, if they're just like, yeah, I'm not quite that far. I don't want to put out my time there, because that's a huge investment. If anybody here that has raised capital, you're probably really wanting to get people on the phone, but you probably get, anybody that you just met, they're like, oh, whoa, hold on, I'm not there yet. Let me do some homework first, right? So I'm just really trying to figure out how to match, and then I can step with them, and then I can lead them forward. And so that first communication is all about figuring out where they're at in their journey. And that way I can lead them to the next step. I can offer them the next step. And then once we take that next step together, I can lead them to where, the information or the deal or whatever it is that will get them to their next goal.
That's amazing. And I know you mentioned that you're not like seeking capital, raising capital per se, but let's just say, because you might help me here, I have a conversation with somebody that is not very well versed on multifamily or real estate in general. And I'm having my initial conversation with them, and they're kind of obviously hesitant. Is there certain resources I can provide them with, because they are curious, right? They want to learn a little bit more. Where do you point them, and what direction do you point them?
Well, I think it goes to how you frame your conversation, really going into that conversation on how can you be helpful, as opposed to, and it doesn't matter if I'm like raising capital for a deal or if I'm just having an investor relation or, an education conversation with them, that how can I be most helpful? So it goes, number one, do I have a good grasp and understanding of what their goals, their risks, and their timeline is? Now, I might pick that up from their conversation that they have with me. Maybe they just outright tell me. More power to them. They know their goals, their risks, and their timeline. Fantastic. We're going to get so much further on this conversation. But oftentimes, new investors, they haven't even sat down to really fully understand what their goals, risks, and timelines are. Because remember, they're coming from stocks, bonds, and mutual fund world, right? Where they've been told that their timeline is retirement, right? 30 or 40 years. They've been told, you can't invest for cash flow. The only thing that we have for you is an equities trade. So really helping them initially think through that, yeah, you can have additional goals outside of what you've been told and fed this entire time, in the stocks, funds, and mutual fund world. So there's that. I also, try to have get to the bottom. Do they actually believe in real estate, right? Do they believe this is something that's a powerful investment to help them achieve those goals? If they're like, yeah, I don't know, I'm looking at crypto and this, that, and the other. I'm not entirely sold on real estate. You're going to have a really upward conversation with them, and it's going to be like pushing a rock uphill. So really trying to identify those people that, hey, they got a good understanding, or you can help them define their goals, risks, and timeline. But secondly, that they believe in real estate, because now you've got a good premise here to start helping them understand how multifamily real estate might be analogous to some other investment that they've actually already made in their life. And that's the next thing that I look for. Maybe they have owned their own single family property, or they have bought their house. I try to find something in their experience, that way I can show them, hey, listen, you've already done this thing here, and investing into a multifamily deal passively, like into my operating business, this isn't such a huge leap, right? We change a few terms, and really what you're in is in a partnership with me. You bring the capital, I operate the deal. And so, really trying to help strip the complexity out of the conversation will move somebody closer to being able to make a decision on whether they invest with you or not. So once I kind of, achieved a few of those things, one, helping them, put words to what they may not already know about their investing goals, helping them understand how solid of an investment real estate can be. Do they believe that it is a solid investment? I try to connect the dots to something they've already done in their life, so it's not as scary moving forward. And then now, where are we at? Now I just have a couple more hurdles to hop over. One, do they know, love, and trust me as somebody that can take care of their money as if it's their money, not my money to invest, but their money? And then, do they believe in the market and the deal that they're going into? And sometimes those last two steps are going to be repeated touches. I'm not going to be able to just have one conversation on the phone with an investor. This is going to be a relationship that I'm going to have to develop over and over again, and webinars that I hold, conferences I go to, newsletters that I put out, and then just continuing to put out deals in front of them to show them that, yeah, we can help you achieve these goals.
Oh my goodness. Again, Whitney, you're blowing my mind right now. This is really, really actionable advice. I got to be honest. And one of the main points that I also preach is that I can't at my stage, and what I've learned is that I can't teach people to love real estate. And if they come to me already knowing that they want to invest in real estate, it is just my life is just much easier. My job becomes a lot easier. That is huge. And I love the process that you guys have. So far, we have 3 steps or so. Really like that, guys. I hope you're taking notes out there. And I don't want to shift gears. I would like to continue talking a little bit about this. I know we have limited time, but there's so much to really handle here. So let's stick with this particular topic. And if we need to get you on, we'll get you on another time. Okay, is there some sort of pipeline to getting investors prior to this stage? Like I know you just mentioned you came from the conference. Perhaps you got a bunch of email lists. Is that one method of getting contacts?
Yeah, you can get cold lists, but there's a lot of effort in trying to convert those people. So it's going to be a longer journey. I even realized this, when I was trying to buy like rehab properties on my own, like you have to put out like 1,000 or 10,000 leads to get like the 4 or 5, right? That are, that are going to convert. If anybody here is listening and they're trying to, kind of cold call, prospective sellers to sell a property. I mean, it's much like that, that your conversions are going to be lower. And so, I think that's a great strategy if you already have a good foundation, good investor base. It's not where I would start because it's going to take just as much time and effort to build the list, if you're very hands-on and going to find those warm clients or, really hot leads, as it would in maybe even more time if you were trying to, convert cold leads. Now, there's a thing here, you don't have to go to every single like real estate conference. You don't have to talk on the real estate podcast. You can actually identify who your ideal client or prospective client is, and then go find them where they're at. So essentially it's called blue fishing. So red fishing is where you're going to the same well that all the sharks are in, right? And you're trying to pitch your deal in that well or in that sea, right? As soon as your deal hits the water or, the investor hits the water, like all the sharks are going after it. All the operators are trying to convert them. How can you actually find them before they get to that ocean? That's what we call blue fishing. So in case in point, maybe, I don't know, maybe you're a dentist and, you have, you're trying to get into, multifamily real estate and raise a deal. Could you go to your state dental association conference and offer up passive investing into your deal as a way for a dentist to, kind of build a retirement plan? I'm just coming up with an idea. That would be an idea of blue fishing. So that's kind of a happy medium, right? Like not all these dentists there know about real estate, know about multifamily, or even maybe not even looking for an investment, but you already kind of pre-qualified them in a way. You might have already a relationship into that arena. And so it's an easier sale. That would be kind of a warm lead pool.
Wonderful. Okay. So we have a beginning, we have a middle. I kind of went out of order here. What about afterwards? Let's say we close the deal. I know that you're constantly working with investors and maybe even communicating with them through a variety of means and methods and time frames throughout the year. What does that communication post-closing and investing look like?
Yeah, hyper communicate as much as you possibly can. Investors, I mean, even more so in today's environment, are looking for this. I'm constantly educating our investors. And it's one of the things that sets us apart at passiveinvesting.com from other operators is that we look to hyper communicate. And that just doesn't mean how many times am I landing it in your inbox. It means with the type of information I'm putting into your inbox. So it's not just quantity, it is quality of information. Investors are nervous right now. They're nervous about, the US defaulting. They're nervous about impending recession. They're nervous about all these things. And that is something where we get to be leaders in this space. So not stoking the fire, not stoking the flames, not being bait clicky or anything like that. But really being, how can you be a good qualified leader in your space, in your genre, in your market, and giving them high quality information. Now, and this is not just about, again, like, newsletters and disseminating information, but even with your deals. So the communications really starts before closing. So when we have a deal that's going to close, we will, communicate like every couple of weeks on that deal until it is closed. If there's any material changes that our partners, we considered all of our investors, they're our partners. Okay, they're not just passive investors, they're our partners in the deal. We keep them well informed of any of those changes. The day the deal closes, not 2 days later, not 3 days later, not a week later, the day that a deal closes, we are letting our investors know, our partners know that we've closed on the deal. We're giving them an investor guide on what to expect next, how to communicate, who is their contact now within their organization. And then we're letting them know exactly like what is the timeline for communication? When can they expect their next update? In those updates, we do monthly updates. We're telling them we're hitting all core areas of the business. Even if there's nothing really to report, we're telling them what we're doing with marketing, with operations, with financials. On the quarterly basis, we're handing over all the rent rolls and the profit and loss statements on the business. Nothing abridged, nothing undocumented, that's not, fully documented. Again, they're our partners. And then, we have open doors. All of our investors have our direct cell phone number and can, text or call or email us at any point in time.
Wow, wonderful advice. Again, I apologize. I have my dog barking here. I had myself muted. You couldn't hear, but so the right type of communication is what I'm hearing. It doesn't necessarily.
He agrees with us.
He does agree.
He's a passive investor too. He agrees with you.
He does. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just quantity, right? We want quality, and we want to address the fears and the needs of our investors, our partners, as you're saying. Whitney, incredible stuff. Let's move on to our final question, and then we're going to get the listeners some form of contacting you, because I would love to continue talking with you, and I know that they're going to want to as well. So let's start it. Let's imagine it was 100 years from now, and you have great grandchildren, and they wanted to write a book about you. What would you want them to title this book?
Well, I would hope that they're actually putting out a updated version of the book that I'm currently writing with Bigger Pockets, which is the multi-generational wealth blueprint, where I go through how do you create wealth, keep wealth, grow wealth, and most importantly, I think the piece that we are missing, passing it on to the next generation. So much of what's out there as far as financial knowledge and education is tips, tricks, hacks, right? These are all tactics. It takes a lot for people getting into the space to really understand the true objective that they're trying to achieve and the strategies that are going to help them meet those objectives. Because if you understand those two pieces, then you won't be getting, starry-eyed syndrome or, shiny object syndrome, right? Because you'll be able to clearly understand what tactics will help you get you there. And so I really try to help back up the conversation to those, having investors understand their objective and their strategy. So I hope that this, this type of book continues to get updated in perpetuity. Really just to kind of, not just eliminate the financial illiteracy, because that's just only one piece of the puzzle, but really eliminate the financial, inaction that we're seeing in the environment. People just kind of being like deer stuck in the headlights. No, like let's help arm people with those principles that will get them like 85% on the way to their goals. Because, just imagine if all of us had that base financial education and had a blueprint to build our own generational wealth, just what would the world look like today? It'd be such a better place.
Oh, that's beautiful, Whitney. And I actually wrote a blog post with a similar title, Multi-Generational Wealth, because the problem is, we can build our own portfolio up and we could build our personal wealth. But then what happens is it tends to get lost in the next generation and always lost in the subsequent generation. So very important to continue educating our children, not just providing them with everything they need and $1 million and go run and do this. They need to know what to do with that. So very, very important and impactful for the society at large and the world. So I appreciate that answer. Whitney, can you get the listeners some form of contacting you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me at passiveinvestingwithwhitney.com. You can also just email me directly at whitney@passiveinvesting.com. But either of those will get you to me. If you go through the website, you also get immediate access to my calendar, and we can schedule time to speak together.
Wonderful. And Whitney, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today. I really learned a lot. I took notes, and I'm just excited to be sharing this with my audience. So thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Nico.
All right. Hey, Small Axe community. I would like to say thank you for listening to another episode of my podcast, where we show you how to use your small axe to build a lasting empire. Now, if you liked what you heard, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. Also, if you want to get in touch with me, go to my website at smalaxecommunities.com. Book a call with me. And until the next episode, keep sharpening those axes.